Okay, enjoy. You get to look on the same one. All right. Get close. Shirley, you got a hand out? Is it from Monday or yesterday? Okay, good. Hey, good morning. How are you? Is yours from Monday or yesterday? So yours is good. Do you need a handout? Yesterday or Monday? You guys okay? Good to see you. Hey friends, good morning. Hey friends from Iowa. Friends from Iowa. All right, a couple now. Don't get greedy. Where are you from? Okay. I've seen it on the map and I always thought, what all the way was. My kid was a treasure, so I felt like.
Morning.
She's in town, yeah. She actually came yesterday. I can hear her. I married her because of that laugh. She's here for the You'll get to her. Yeah. Oh, good. You go way back. Yeah. Sam was here too. That's fantastic. Well, friends, the ones we printed yesterday, that was from yesterday. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here.
It was so good yesterday.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about Jesus. Somebody Bible's way, you turn up. That's really sweet. I'm going to retire now. He's coming. Yeah. Hey, good morning. How are you? Good to see you. Bless you. Hey, good morning. How are you? I'm making you drop things. How's it going? Welcome. Hey, good morning.
Hi, Joel.
morning, everyone. Now, I think you all have the correct handout. The one we gave out yesterday was faulty. It was like a trick to see if you were paying attention. And some of you said, hey, I don't have all the stuff, so bless you. The one that's back there today, I think, is legitimate. There we are. So the hymn, I'm told, is number 408. So let's stand and sing together, number 408. Amen. Please be seated. I was struck again yesterday by the deep congruence between Jewish practice and Christian faith, and also the deep and blessed difference. Now, difference is nothing to be afraid of. Difference is a good and blessed thing, yeah? So Rabbi Dan told you yesterday about the relatively more kosher observant relative who met with the relatively less observant relative for the first time in years and was served a Caesar salad. What do you do with this unkosher food? She ate it, because not offending the newly reconnected relative was more important in that moment than strict kosher observance. And it reminds me of a story about the Desert Fathers. So the Desert Fathers and Mothers were monks in the early church, mostly in Syria and Palestine and Egypt especially. Some monasteries still operate today that date to those days, like the 200s AD in continuity. All monks and nuns pledge poverty, chastity, and obedience in imitation of Christ. Some also practice vegetarianism because in the Garden of Eden, no animals are eaten, right? And so in the eschaton, they figure no animals will be eaten. As monks, they're trying to live into that tomorrow today. So they're on a visit outside the monastery, and they, as commanded, they eat whatever's put in front of them. And then the one who's hosting them says, "Isn't this wonderful meat that I've served you?" And they stop eating because they don't eat meat. Now, the point is that they didn't notice it was meat because they were so busy praying during the meal, they're not noticing what they're eating. But once they're told it's meat, they stop and they look at each other, and then they start eating again. Because, again, hospitality is more important than keeping to their rule. I love that. Like, I want to say most of our good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and say all of our good stuff, we inherited from y'all. And then we worked really hard to pretend that we're otherwise for a long time. I'm struck at the blessed differences as well. I think one reason Christians get taken with Midrashim is that the stories are so daring, right? They're so funny, they're so outlandish, and then they're sticky. And so I can't get them out of my imagination. So the story about Terah running the idol-making shop and putting the club in the hand of the biggest idol who beat up all the other idols. I've used that in sermons for years. A friend of mine grew up pretty observantly Jewish. Went to Columbia, not a bad university. Tough spot for Jews at the minute, I grant. And swore up and down to her Bible professor that story was in the book of Genesis. Professor said, honey, she probably didn't say honey because it wasn't the South. You're going to have to go back and read the book of Genesis really closely because I promise you it's not there. What I love about that is that the line between what's there and what's not there is actually not at all obvious. So this is one thing I love learning from Jewish friends. I think especially as Protestants, we sort of replace the authority of the Pope with the authority of the literal sense of Scripture. You see what I mean? But that's also squishy and hard to figure out. And this Midrash, if they're not literal, they're also not non-literal. Do you hear the difference? They're not non-literal. They need permission in the text to tell the story the way they tell it. And if the story violates the letter of the text or ignores it, it doesn't work, right? Now the permission can be thin, but you need a prompt within the text to tell these outlandish stories. And I love learning from them. So if you can tell, one thing I'm trying to figure out how to do is how do we Christians do Midrash again, right? And we find, thankfully, you guys have protected that tradition and we can learn again. Final thing, I've studied a lot of Catholic theologies of Mary in my time because I think we Protestants have kind of kicked Mary out of the church, right? And I kind of want her back for more than one song in Advent, right? Which is, by the way, a terrible song. Mary, did you know? Yeah, she's the only one who knew. Like an angel came and told... Never mind, okay. Catholic theologians who do Mary stuff, it's called Mariology. It's an actual field in Catholic theology. They have a saying in Latin, of course, that I like to use. De Maria nunquam satis. About Mary, you can't say enough. So in that kind of Catholic land, every praise of Mary redounds to her son. And so when we Protestants are like, hey, can you cool it on Mary? Like, can you just take it down a few notches or 10? No. De Maria nunquam satis. You can't say too much, right? And I think I want to adapt that saying. By the way, I don't know that I agree with that. I just think it's lovely, right? Which is on the way to agreeing, but not there. Okay. So I want to adapt it to say this. The more praise we Christians offer to Judaism, the closer we get to the Jew Jesus whom we love and follow. Say, de Judaismo nunquam satis. We can't say enough good about Judaism. This is because it's not a zero-sum game. You see what I mean? That's what Catholics are saying. Praise for Mary does not take away from her son, it adds to it. Praise, I want to say in the same way, praise for Judaism doesn't take away from Christian faith or from Jesus, it adds to it. So you can't love Judaism too much. In Jesus Christ, we Gentiles are made part of a Jewish body, Jesus. And so we learn to love the rest of his Jewish body. Rabbi Dan, would you come and immerse us more deeply in this faith?
Another wow. It's been so exciting. I mean, do you realize he's a rookie here at Bayview? This guy's good. I feel so honored to partner with Reverend Jason, and he picks up on things, and you know to respect and honor Christianity is a good thing for Jews as well. For so long, well, and still, the Jewish way has really been to ignore Jesus rather than to look at his teachings. And in the time that I've been a rabbi and being able to partner in things like this, I've learned so much from my colleagues, from my Christian colleagues and from my Muslim colleagues, and even from Hindu and Buddhist colleagues. So if you're looking for a way to reclaim Midrash, bring me back for 2 weeks next year. The other thing that I like about Bayview is that it is clearly funded by some very generous people, and it's subtly acknowledged that it's and this is part of Jesus' teachings too. You know, you don't make a big deal about your contributions. And this particular lecture, I forget the names of the people who sponsored it, but it would not take place if not another thing had happened, and that is on August the 5th, 1956, 70 years ago today, Bailey and Marshall Gordon got married to each other, and one of their 3 children was me. And today is their 70th anniversary, and you know what's coming. Hey Siri, call mom and dad. Cell. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary, Bailey and Marshall.
Are you FaceTiming or no?
Sometimes he can't find the phone.
Uh-oh. You're too busy celebrating.
I'm going to try one more time and let you warm up because my friend in the back of the room was born on my parents' wedding day. And so, Jerry, stand up.
Happy birthday, Jerry.
Jerry, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jerry. Happy birthday to you. Yay! So now that you're warmed up, let's see if he answers this time.
We can sing on voicemail if he doesn't answer. That's true.
Here he is. He usually calls back when he finds the phone. Hello?
Annie?
Yes?
You calling?
I did. You know, I'm at the Chautauqua in Michigan.
I know, I saw the billboard.
You saw the billboard, right? Hey,
The billboard on the highway?
it's on the highway. Yes. What do you know?
Do they do that for everybody or just Rabbi?
I have no idea. Yes. Did you hear the laughter in the room? Okay. Is mom next to you?
Yeah, she's sleeping though.
Yeah. There's some people who want to say something to both of you. Can you put it on speaker and maybe she'll wake up? What?
It's on speaker.
Okay. So are you. Strong.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
All right. So should I leave the phone on speaker so you can hear the class, or you want to watch the video later?
I'll watch the video.
I bet. All right. I love you. Hey, how's it going? Great. Okay, you got that answer. Now I only have.
Rabbi Dan there.
All right, I only have 44 minutes left now. Okay, talk to you later. Enjoy your anniversary. Bye-bye.
Where are they located?
They are in Albany, New York, after they lived for their first 90 years in Pittsburgh. You Pittsburgher? Go Stillers. And they lived 57 years in the same house.
Wow.
But moved into assisted living in Albany because they wanted to be close to their smartest son. Texas was third choice. And he's an angel. My brother Jeffrey, he retired early to help take care of them, and he's an angel. All right, so after making so much fuss about a whiteboard, I figure I better use it. Will this catch the camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Make sure you're right at the top.
Yes, okay. It goes up to about here?
Well, it's more for the people in the back to see.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so a couple of quick things that I think you'll enjoy. One of them is that the letters that spell out the sacred name of God are Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. And I spaced it out so that it won't be offensive to erase it later. this is as it says in the handout, these are the letters that are forming of to be. When Moses says to God at the burning bush, "Who are you?" Who knows what he says in English? I am that I am is how it's most commonly translated. Ehiyeh asher ehiyeh, which takes that verb to be and puts it in the future tense on both sides. I will be what I will be. All right? So the concept of God is ever, God is past, present, future, and then some. Now, back into Genesis, when the man is called Adam, which is spelled like this, and Aleph, Daled, Mem, which, if you take this Mem looks like that because it's a final letter, but if it's not a final letter, it looks like this. And Adamah means land or earth. Okay? Man is formed out of the earth. These two letters, Adam, just Dam, is blood. So the earth and the blood make man. And the color of blood is, with the same letters, Adon. So words mean something. Words mean something. Abraham, Avram, is father of a nation. Avraham is father of many nations. Okay? Little things like that mean something. Now, so the eraser is on the back of the marker, right? Okay. Don't erase it. Okay. But okay, so I need some room over here to show you something else. So when Adam first finds out that there is another human, as I mentioned yesterday, or maybe some other day, the days are kind of, he says, "This is the flesh of my flesh, the bone of my bones, so this one I will call woman." Okay? And then he becomes man instead of just, Adam is really mankind. Okay? Humanity. So man specifically is Ish, with the three letters Aleph, Yud, and Shin. And then when he says, "This one I will call woman," woman is Isha. The ah at the end of words makes it feminine. So we've got Ish and Isha. Now, you may notice that one of the letters of God's name is in Ish, and another letter of God's name is in Isha. Man is different than woman, and both contain part of God, a different part of God. If you look a little bit more graphically at the Yud and the Hey, you can see that the Yud fits into the Hey. And if you take those letters, I'm going to put it up here so it can be seen. The Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, the four letters here, the Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, if you use your imagination a little bit, it looks like a man. The head, the arms, the torso, and the legs. This is a little bit of Kabbalah stuff, okay, some mysticism. So back to the part of God that's in man and the part of God that's in woman. If you take those pieces out, you take out this yud and this hang, you're left with, is this high enough to see?
Yeah.
You're left with two letters, which spells H, which means fire. So if you take out part of God from the man and part of God from the woman, and you get fire, is fire good or bad? Yes, thank you, Jason. Fire is good and fire is bad. It warms you. It can help you cook. And it can get out of control. So, when God is present with man and woman, the fire is passionate love for one another. When that fire gets out of control, all H breaks loose. So just a little bit of, just a little bit of Hebrew, so I, let you have that. So today's lesson is supposed to be about the different kinds of Jews. All right, and in your handout, it's got a list of the ones most prominent in America. Now, it's interesting to note that in Israel, they only have two categories. They're expanding in recent times, but for most of Israel's existence, it's been dati or lo dati, religious or not religious. And the religious are very religious, and the not religious are very non-observant. Okay, they don't practice. They don't do the rituals. About 20% of the Israeli population is religious. And they control a lot of things in Israel. I'm not going to get political about it, but I guess I already have. It's like when you say, to make a long story short, it's already too late. So laws in Israel adhere to the religious. And there's a big controversy right now among the Jewish people about the Western Wall. Because the Western Wall has always been, who's been to Israel and to the Western Wall? Okay, there's a men's side to pray and a women's side to pray. And that is out of respect for the Orthodox. There is a separate section that's hard to find and hard to get to, where men and women can pray together. And there have been some negotiations in recent years to make an egalitarian section more prominent, and to make it kind of like, instead of 2/3 for the men and 1/3 for the women, 1/3 for the men, 1/3 for the women, and 1/3 for those who want to pray together. And a deal was struck and thrown away. So it's still going on because Benjamin Netanyahu can't get elected without of the support of the Orthodox coalition. I once asked someone who was very familiar with these things, what is better, the Israeli system of countless parties, because their parliamentary system means that the parties get together and they agree to make coalitions, or the U.S. system of two parties? And he said, it's another lecture. So, for a long time, being Jewish just meant being Jewish. There weren't these categories. And people did what they were supposed to do. They followed the law. They kept kosher, they honored the Sabbath, they did all the things that were supposed to be done, and maybe some didn't. Because in all traditions, I'm not going to say this part out loud, You know how they say that Jews don't recognize the divinity of Christ, and Protestants don't recognize the divinity of the Pope, and Baptists don't recognize each other in the liquor store. That was too easy, sorry. In the late 1800s, there came a movement called Reform Judaism. Now, many Reform Jews mispronounce the name of their own movement. They say, I'm Reformed. And I let them know that Reformed means used to be. So if you say, I'm a Reformed Jew, then you're not a Jew. And according to Judaism, you can't denounce your Judaism. You could convert to Christianity or anything else, but you're still in your kishkis a Jew. The Reform movement, reform means changing. And so the Reform movement at first reminds me a little bit about early Christians and Jews. They wanted to distinguish themselves from the Orthodox. And they felt that to blend in with their Christian neighbors was the most important thing. And so the early Reformed Jews, it began in Germany in the late 1800s, the first Reformed Jews, they worshipped on Sunday because that was when all their neighbors were. For a Jewish businessman to close on Saturday was hard on his business. They worshipped on Sunday. They did not use Hebrew, very little, because praying in the vernacular would have more meaning to them. So they prayed in the language of the country they were in, if it was Germany in German, if it was America in English. Sometimes their rabbis were called reverend. And their first convention happened to be in my hometown of Pittsburgh, called the Pittsburgh Platform. And they got together, and it was also nicknamed the Pork Platform, because they intentionally served non-kosher food, shrimp and pork, to distinguish themselves. And head coverings were discouraged. If you had on a yarmulke in a Reform synagogue, you were asked to take it off. Long time ago. Every 50 years, they have another platform, and they review things. When I first became a rabbi in 1999 was one of the years when they did that kind of review. And one of the things that they talked about was that respect for the dietary laws is a personal choice rather than a no-no. That use of Hebrew is valuable learning. And also, it was an acknowledgement of interfaith marriages are to be welcomed and embraced. If, the rule at the time was, if they were maintaining a Jewish household. And they also, sorry. And they also, patrilineal descent. That came up in the early 80s. Patrilineal descent. In the Bible, your lineage is through your father. Sometime later, I'm not sure exactly when, sometime later, it became through the mother. And when I was teaching a conversion class in Texas, one of the participants said, well, yeah, of course, because it's mama's baby, but it's daddy's maybe. And this was in response to pogroms, rape, etc., etc. So matrilineal descent became the rule. The Reform movement said, if one of the parents is Jewish, and the household and the children are being raised Jewish, then the children are considered to be Jewish. Which brought about big controversies within our community, because then if someone from one stream of Judaism wanted to marry someone from another stream of Judaism, there would be an issue. Why? Because the one might consider the other not Jewish. Okay, I had friends. Boy, I'm more airing dirty laundry. I'm sorry, but I had friends who years ago, like in I want to say 1960-ish, okay, went to get married. The woman had a Jewish father and a Catholic mother, and didn't realize that made a difference. And when they went to the rabbi, he said, "Oh, well, no problem. We'll just convert you. Okay, we'll put you in the mikveh, the ritual bath, and give you a conversion, and I'll be able to do the wedding." And she said, "Who the hell are you to tell me I'm not Jewish?" And they walked away and joined the Unitarian Church and never set foot in the synagogue again until they came to mine once and not twice. I was dating her sister. They came on, I came over to their house on Friday afternoon, Christmas Eve, and they came to the synagogue nicely. So what I'm getting at is that just like you have differences in Christianity between Catholics and Lutherans and Presbyterians and Methodists and Methodist and Methodist and Lutheran and Lutheran and Lutheran and Lutheran and Catholics and Catholics, we have our differences as well. And what I'd also like to say is that we also have differences within those communities. And you do too. You know, every individual has a right to adhere to the precepts that they believe. So Reform Judaism has gone through this transformation over the decades and century of more than a century of moving more toward a religion of choice that make your decisions about what to follow and what not to follow out of knowledge rather than ignorance. So in a Reform religious school, in the past, they wouldn't even be taught about dietary laws. Now they're taught about it as a choice. Does anyone have control over the air conditioning? Okay. The conservative movement was a result of the Reform and the Orthodox having these extreme polars, okay? And it also had to do with theology. The Orthodox believe that every word of the Torah, the prophets, the writings, the Talmud, is all the direct word of God. The conservative, the Reform believe it was all human influenced, and the conservative have something in between, that the Torah is the word of God and the other writings were the word of people. And I mentioned the other day about driving on the Sabbath, right? That the conservative made a new rule saying you can drive to get to the synagogue. The Reform said you could drive anywhere, and the Orthodox said you can't. Okay? So that's how these things came about. It might not surprise you to know that Reform is now the largest of those movements. Conservative used to be. And also that the people who adhere to, who connect to that movement as their title may or may not follow all of what it teaches. Sometimes you make your decision based on where you live, or who the rabbi is, or all kinds of factors. In fact, the Pew Research, which does a lot of interesting work, came out with a survey that said of the 3 main reasons why a Jewish person joins a synagogue, the rabbi is number 3. Geography is number 2. Number 1, any guess? Friendliness. How welcome, oh thank you. how welcome the people are, how you feel when you come in, and how the people make you feel. I once went to visit somebody in the hospital, surprised to find out that they had lived in the neighborhood of my synagogue for a long time, and I never met them before. And they said, well, we came once. It was before I had been there. The synagogue's called Temple Beth Torah. They said, we came once and nobody talked to us. So now we drive by and call it Temple Ignoria. And that's, in my opinion, that is the key to any community. How nice you are to each other. You can be everything to God that you want to be. But be nice to each other, because that's what all your teachings say. What all our teachings say, what your teachings say, and what every teaching says. Those are the big three in the U.S. Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. The difference between an Orthodox yarmulke and a conservative yarmulke. Reform wears it none of the time, conservative wears it, or the Orthodox wears it all the time, and the conservative keeps it in his pocket till just the right moment. Or the fold, because the Orthodox one never is folded. It's always on your head. I'm not going to go into more jokes like the one about but it gives you an idea that if smoking was ever declared against halakha, against strict Jewish law, how the three movements would react. Then allegedly the Reform would say, well, we're not bound by strict Jewish law, and so we can smoke. And the Orthodox would say, this you need a little bit of background, but they say, okay, we'll sell our lungs to the goyim. There's a tradition on Passover that you clean your house of all the things you're not allowed to eat during Passover, but just in case you might have missed anything, you make a sale to someone who's not Jewish that says anything in my house that might be forbidden to eat during Passover belongs to you for this week, and I'll buy it back from you next week. And the conservative would say, okay, the rabbi can't smoke. And my friend, who's a conservative rabbi, said that we used to say we have an Orthodox teaching, a conservative rabbinate, and a Reform constituency. But the people who say, I am a Reformed Jew, or even a Reformed Jew, and they think that it means I don't practice anything, are mistaken. Because if you practice what Reformed Judaism teaches, you're still going to the synagogue on the Sabbath. You're still, praying over the Sabbath meal. You're still adhering to holidays and things like that. And so it's all in the perception of the people who are doing it. Now, in recent years, other movements or denominations or other things have sprouted. Among them, in the 20th century, Reconstructionists. There's a rabbi named Mordecai Kaplan who developed Reconstructionist Judaism, but not with the intention of a new movement or denomination of its own, but it became that. Because his son-in-law, Ira Eisenstein, wanted to do it, and so he opened a seminary, and there are Reconstructionist rabbis and Reconstructionist synagogues, and what Reconstructionist, it was a more theological, philosophical the way to think, and one of those things was that the past has a vote, not a veto. That it's respectful to the tradition, but also thinking, which makes sense for our world today. If you went to a Reconstructionist synagogue, many times you would think that you are in a conservative synagogue, because the ritual and the prayer practices are very, very similar. But it might be similar to another, depending on that community. One of the key things was that the Reconstructionist philosophy said that the concept of a chosen people has not done us much good. That people look at that term and they think that we think we're better than everyone else. And so the Reconstructionist liturgy has removed references to chosen people. There's a prayer, there are a few prayers that say, Asher bacharabanu mikol am. You have chosen us from all the other nations. And they've changed that to, you have chosen us for service. Okay? So, so a conservative Jew who goes into a Reconstructionist synagogue will get confused by a change of a word here and there. But the reason why it was called Reconstructionist was because Rabbi Kaplan wanted to have an influence on the whole Jewish world. He actually had the concept of the Jewish Community Center, where I got my professional start. The Jewish Community Center, the JCC, his view was to create community, learn together, pray together, eat together, socialize together, play basketball together. I mean, of course, us playing basketball with other people makes us, you know, we're not so good at the basketball part. Later, some synagogues would get to be so big in that area that they were called the shul with a pool. So he wanted to have an influence. It has an influence, but it hasn't grown much as a movement. It's pretty much stayed still. One that I connect with is called Aleph, which is Jewish Renewal, which has a real identity issue because we're not sure if we are a movement or a denomination or something else. Jewish Renewal was meant to revive a spirit, especially among young people, and the young people who started are now old or dead, except for me, who's neither. Just started Medicare this year. The Jewish Renewal started with a Hasidic rabbi. Now, I haven't mentioned Hasidism yet. Hasidism is a kind of orthodoxy. They're the people you know with long beards, sometimes side curls, depending on where they came from, mostly from Poland, and they would follow a Rebbe. A Rebbe was the very well-respected rabbi of the community, and there are many different sects of Hasidic Jews, both in America and in Europe. The ones that you have met, if you have met any, who knows some Hasidic Jews? Okay, fewer, yes. Who knows some Reform Jews? The Hasids, they started in the 1700s by a leader called the Baal Shem Tov. Israel ben Eliezer was known as the Baal Shem Tov, which means the master of the good name. And what they were set up to do was to bring Judaism into joyousness. And so the niggins that I've been doing the last couple of days, those are Hasidic niggins, that they would get into their prayer so much that they would continue it with songs without words, with dancing, with banging on the tables, and it is a very, very festive way. You look at them and they look, you know, very strict because of their dark clothes and their strict religious observance, but they bring out such joy do it with men on one side and women on the other. So some modern people have a difficult time with that, and they don't embrace it. And so one of the Rebbe's students, the Rebbe is an inherited position. Oh, but what I meant to say was, the ones that you might have seen are usually Lubavitch. Lubavitch means that they came from the town of Lubav in Poland, and they are the only ones that do outreach. Not outreach to try and convert people to Judaism, but trying to get Jewish people to become more observant. All right? And they are very open-minded. The Rebbe said, "No Jew left behind." That's where George Bush got the phrase. The Rebbe said, "No Jew left behind," and so they focus their attention on prison inmates, mentally disabled adults, people who nobody else wants to care about. And I have a very good friend who's a Hasidic rabbi who's gotten me involved in both of those endeavors, and it's been very, very fulfilling. One day I'll give a whole talk about prison ministry. It's taught me quite a bit. I'll just give you one bissel. The one thing prison ministry has taught me is that nobody wants to be judged by the worst thing they ever did. So the Rebbe before the Rebbe. So the Rebbe who they call the Rebbe died in 1994. And he took his position in 1951. And he hasn't been replaced, and there are some people in the Hasidic community who believe him to be the Messiah. Not all, but some. And when he first died, there were posters around Israel with his face on it, hoping that he was the Messiah to come. His predecessor was his father-in-law, and his father-in-law assigned two people to bring Judaism back to the young. Their names were Shlomo Carlebach and Zalman Shalomi. Zalman Schachter. He added the Shalomi later. Schachter is the Hebrew word for a butcher, and his family was kosher butchers. So Shlomo became a rock star, in Jewish music. He wrote prayers, he played guitar, he got people singing, and the two of them together would go to college campuses and get young people interested. Zalman was in the 60s, and he was exploring all kinds of different spiritual practices, and he did a religious retreat with a man named Timothy Leary. And when he wrote about the spiritual enlightenment that you can get from hallucinogenics, the Rebbe said maybe start a different path. And so he started a path not about hallucinogenics, but about the joy of Hasidism, but adding things like egalitarianism. So he would ordain women rabbis, and women would lead services like they didn't in the Orthodox community, like embracing other faiths, traditions such as Buddhist meditation, chanting. Things like that came into renewal, as well as ecumenicism, where learning from other faiths. So while the Hasidic communities are pretty insular, Zalman started something where it would be more broad, and we would learn from each other and respect each other. I heard him once speak with Houston Smith. Does anyone know that name? Houston Smith wrote a book originally titled The Religions of Man, then changed to The World's Religions, because he realized that men aren't the only one who have religion. If you read that book, Religions of the World by Houston Smith, and Houston is spelled Huston, each chapter is about a different religion. And when you're reading it, when I read it, I felt like this must be his. Because he wrote it in a style that presented it the way that somebody in that religion would want it to be presented. What I found out later was that he lived in those communities for at least a month so that he could really feel what it was like. And when I found out what his religion was, do you know what his religion was? Begins with an M. Methodist. He was Methodist. And his daughter married an Orthodox Jewish man and died. And he observed the Jewish ritual practices with his son-in-law and their family. And that was one of the ways that he gained his learning and respect for Judaism. And one of the beautiful things that Jason said this morning, you can be praiseworthy, respectful of other traditions without them being your own, without diminishing your own. You know, it's like when I was a kid, I learned about America as the melting pot. You've heard that phrase. And then, I don't know where, if it was me or if it was somebody else, came up with the concept of, rather than a melting pot where all the flavors blend in together, perhaps a stew, where you can taste the influence. You can taste how the peppers flavor the potato without losing what the potato is. So this is all exciting about different ways to be Jewish and different ways to be anything by respecting one another. Where else did I want to go with this? Maybe we'll go ahead and do some questions. Yeah. I did get one written one. Oh, you got a bunch more? Okay. Well, we'll do a lot of that. What's today? Oh, so we'll do a lot of that on Thursday. The one written one I have is, why is the book of Daniel not listed under the prophets? And why are Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings, which seem more historic than prophetic? Because they didn't ask me. But Daniel is, and so prophets is kind of a misnomer because we think of prophets as prophecy and people who predict. Prophets were more about those who had a personal connection with God and who God spoke to. And so some people that others might consider prophets aren't. Daniel apparently had his messages from a Holy Spirit rather than God's self. And that's why it was put in the book of writings instead. Robin's got a microphone. Yeah, and maybe try and keep these to, well, it doesn't matter. I was going to say keep it to today's subject, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and please let me bring the mic to you, even if you have a loud voice, so it'll be on the recording.
In these groups, where does Kabbalah fit?
Okay. Excellent question. One time I was giving a talk to a Lutheran church, and at five minutes past the hour, I said, we have time for one more question. And he said, can you tell us how Kabbalah fits into all this? And I said, no. Kabbalah is mysticism, and it's kind of magical. And I gave you a taste of it with this, in terms of it's finding sort of the inner meanings. You're not supposed to study Kabbalah until you're over 40 and have a beard. Who made that rule? Fat, hairy men. But, so Kabbalah, I'm not an expert in Kabbalah. I find it fun and interesting, and I think there have been ways that Kabbalah has been misused by telling people that this is going to fix things. Kind of like the book The Secret. You read the book or the movie The Secret, which kind of tells you if you think positive thoughts, it will automatically happen. Well, there's got to be a little bit more than that. You can't just wave a magic wand and make sure that it happens. And I think that one time I went to a Kabbalah lecture, an introduction to Kabbalah, and I thought I was at an Amway presentation. So it's something to be very careful about. It can be taken to the extreme and can be popularized. You know, when you're told, well, buy this water that has a Kabbalah label on it, and I don't want to put it down too much because it's very powerful, and I am not an expert on it. You know, I'm not going to make fun of it. I'm going to say that I don't understand it well enough, and I think that some people teach it who also don't understand it well enough.
Okay, I am running. I've got a vigorous wave over here.
Oh, it's a pastor.
Look out.
Thank you. I'm assuming in Fiddler on the Roof that Tevye was Orthodox, right?
Yes.
And so,
And at that time, well, that was early 1900s. Yeah, there wasn't much other than
yeah.
that.
So I always was wondering myself, you know, where his second daughter marries a Gentile.
His third daughter, actually.
But the third,
yeah.
well, I'm sorry, but then
Right.
the one then that wants to go the Russian, was that more him going against the politic thing than because he was
No.
different? I'd like
Right.
to
Okay.
hear.
So for those of you who are familiar with Fiddler on the Roof, three of his 5 daughters did something untraditional. The first one was fixed up in the traditional way by a matchmaker, and she said, "No, I want to marry the person I'm in love with." And he had to give his permission for that. The second one wanted to marry somebody who was leaving. He was a political activist, and she wanted to go with him. It wasn't about the politics, it was about how they had made the decision on their own and didn't ask him. Okay, the first one asked permission. The second one said, "We're not asking for your permission, we're merely asking for your blessing." And the third one said, "I've married someone outside the faith," and he couldn't handle that. And since you mentioned Tevye, you know, one thing Tevye said, Jason's looking at me, what's he doing with this? That Tevye had this philosophy of, it's no shame to be poor, but it's no great honor either. And he said, you know, that rich people, they could get anything except they can't get anyone to die for them. And if the rich could hire the poor to die for them, then we the poor would all make a nice living. And I'll admit I relate to Tevye a little bit because I have 5 stepchildren. And when we first started dating, people would look at my wife and say, "You really have 5 children?" And I'd say, so far. And then I started paying for them and, you know, cell phones and car insurance and bail. And I began to think like Tevye that what would be the problem if I had just a small fortune? If I were a rich man. All day long I'd biddy biddy bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. If I were a bitty bitty rich, man, I'd build a big tall house with rooms by the dozen right in the middle of the town. A fine tin roof with real wooden floors below. I would have one long staircase just going up, and one even longer going down, and one more leading nowhere just for show. Ho, 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 ho. I'd fill my yard with chicks and turkeys and geese and ducks for the town to see and hear, squawking just as noisily as they can. and with each honk and clonk and clock and blear, would dance like a trumpet on the ear, as if to say, here lives a wealthy man. If I were a rich man, all day long I'd biddy biddy blum. If I were a wealthy man, I see my wife, my Golda, looking like a rich man's wife with a proper double chin, supervising meals to her heart's delight. I see her putting on airs and strutting like a peacock. Oh, hey, what a happy mood she's in! Screaming at the servants day and night. The most important men in town would come to phone on me. They would ask me to advise them, like a Solomon the Wise. If you please, Reb Tevye, pardon me, Reb Tevye, posing questions that would cross a rabbi's eyes. And it won't make one bit of difference if I'd answer right or wrong. Because when you're rich, they think you really know. Oh, if I were rich, I'd have the time that I lack to sit in the synagogue and pray, and maybe have a seat by the eastern wall. I could discuss the holy books with the learned men 7 hours every day, and that would be the sweetest thing of all. If I were a rich man, dum. All day long I'd biddy biddy bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Dum. Oh Lord, who made the lion and the lamb, you decreed I should be what I am. But would it spoil some vast eternal plan if I were a wealthy man? Thank you.
Too many people who could do that on the drop of a hat.
Drop of a hat? Drop of a hat. Well done, my friend.
Be here all week. We've added one more conversation with Rabbi Dan on Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So from the beginning, he had said, hey, we should do like a Ask the Rabbi Anything kind of thing. And I kind of put him off and like, no, we already have you doing enough. But y'all's reaction has been so splendid. The questions I've got are so chewy. So 3 o'clock on the back porch of Evelyn Hall. And baby will bring coffee, you bring yourself and your questions. And I can't promise another song, but
Thursday.
Sorry, Thursday, not today's Wednesday. It'll be tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock at Evelyn Hall. Okay? That's all we got. Go in peace. Get your weights in.
I like what he had to say. Okay. Rush down. We'll see you soon.
Hey, there he is. Good to see you. How you doing? Good to see you.
Okay, so this is magic.